Good evening, honorable members of the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya, our guests from other cadres, our distinguished panelists, our sponsors, Dawa Pharmaceuticals, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Daniela Munene, and I'm the CEO of the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya, and it is my distinct pleasure to welcome you to this webinar on dynamics of pharmacy practice. During this webinar, we shall discuss the role of pharmacy as a business, the quality of Kenyan pharmaceuticals, and the role of pharmacists in managing NCDs. It shall be a very packed webinar with a very rich discussion. Thank you for joining early. But before we start, I'd like to give a few ground rules. Participants are muted during the entire course of this webinar. Please ask questions via the Q&A tab at the bottom of your window. It may be at the top for some devices. Questions shall be addressed by panelists later in the program. For PSK members, if not already done so, please subscribe on the PPB portal for today's webinar so that you can get your CPD points later on. For KPA members and other cadres, the attendance list shall be forwarded to your officials for award of CPD. Please note that CPD points will only be awarded to paid-up members. Note also that this webinar is being recorded and shall be made available hereafter on PSK's YouTube page called Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya. And now I would like to introduce our distinguished speakers for tonight. Our first speaker shall be Dr. Wilberforce Wanyanga, who is the Executive Director at Pharmaceuticals Limited. Dr. Wilberforce Wanyanga is a consulting pharmacist with a focus to pharmaceutical policy, quality assurance, and good manufacturing practices, GMP. He has previously served as the UNIDO National Pharmaceutical Expert for the implementation of the Kenya Pharmaceutical Sector Development Strategy and the Kenya GMP Roadmap that some of us are familiar with. He is currently a board member of the Federation of Africa Pharmaceutical Manufacturing Association, FAPMA, and he's also a member of the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya, PSK. He has been instrumental and participated in many fora in the profession, including membership to various boards of management, such as the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, KEMSA, PSK, where he was a past chairman in 1997-1998, where he was also a past chair of the Legal and Ethics Committee. He has participated in regional activities on regulatory harmonization, intellectual property, and access to essential medicines. As I said, he's currently the Executive Director at Pharmaceuticals Limited, which supports local pharmaceutical production companies in attaining GMP certification. Dr. Wanyanga is quite active in advancing ideals related to the local pharmaceutical production and access to quality medicines. Karibu sana, Dr. Wilberforce Wanyanga, if you could just say hello so that we know that you're there.
Good evening, everybody. I'm happy to be with you tonight.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Dr. Antonio Hipolito. He is a pharmacist, a practicing pharmacist from Portugal. He obtained his pharmacy degree in 1994. He has a master's degree in economics and a PhD in pharmacy management. Presently, he is studying to become a medical doctor and is in his 5th year of study at the School of Medicine. He is a former president of the National Pharmacist Society of the South and Islands region in Portugal. He has authored 15 books concerning management, communication, and drug politics in the pharmaceutical sector, as well as on anti-aging. Welcome to this webinar. Dr. Antonio, please say hello.
Hello to everyone. I'm very pleased and honored to be here, and I hope you get a good seminar. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you, Dr. Antonio. Our third speaker this evening is Professor Francis Abuga Ndemo, who is a pharmacotherapy specialist and has held a number of teaching positions over the years, including at the University of Nairobi at Creighton University and Hampton University in the USA as an associate professor of pharmacy practice. Additionally, Professor Ndemo is the recipient of a number of awards, including an American Society of Health Systems Pharmacists Research Award, the Hampton University Academic Excellence Faculty Award, Clinical Preceptor of the Year for successfully running MTM clinics, and a fellowship award as Fellow of the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya. He is currently the Dean at the School of Pharmacy at the United States International University Africa, that we call USIU. And he's also the Clinic Director at True Pharmacare MTM Clinic. He's also the chairperson of the PSK Policy and Practice Committee, as well as the chairperson of the PSK COVID-19 Response Task Force. Karibu sana, Professor Ndemo, please say hello.
Hello, Ambari, I'm a Swahilist. Anyway, I'm pretty excited to be one of the panel speakers today. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Prof. If you start speaking Swahili, you'll force me to translate for Dr. Antonio, and my Swahili is not very good. So please remember that one. I will just take you through the agenda for today. So we start with the introductory remarks, which are currently ongoing. So I will, after I finish speaking, I will invite Ms. Sachi from DAWA. And then thereafter, we shall have our first speaker on quality of Kenyan Pharmaceuticals, Dr. Wanyanga. At 7:30, we shall speak on the role of pharmacy as a business by Dr. Antonio. At 7:50 or thereabout, Professor Ndemo will come in with management of NCDs. At 8:10, we'll have a short presentation from DAWA from Ms. Elizabeth Washira. And thereafter, all the panelists shall take part in a Q&A session. As a reminder, please post your questions on the Q&A tab, and we shall attempt to handle as many of them as possible. And so now, without further ado, I'll invite my fellow host from DAWA, Ms. Sachi Mohindra, to make some introductory remarks. Over to you, Sachi.
Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone can see me. Hi, I'm Sachi and I'm from the DAWA team. Just trying to share my slides. I hope everyone can see my slides.
Yes, we can, Sachi.
Okay, great. Okay, so just for everybody who doesn't know about DAWA Limited, DAWA Limited is one of our two companies. We're part of DAWA Group. So DAWA Limited is our main purpose of business is manufacturing and distribution of pharmaceuticals. And with Medicel Kenya Limited, which is our sister company, we import, distribute, and market pharmaceuticals. So whenever you hear of DAWA and of Medicel, we're together. So we just wanted to talk to you a bit about the supply chain. We have an extensive supply chain across not only Kenya, but quite a few of the East African region and a few of the other African nations, which I'll go through. And we focus mainly on dealing with KEMSA, meds, hospitals, chemists, distributors, and pharmacies. And I just wanted to highlight that we have the largest portfolio in the country. And we supply 20% of products in Kenya across the ranges from branded, generic, in-licensed, and international business. So a lot of what we do is focused highly on quality. So we have very intense and fully fledged out quality assurance and quality control teams. And our quality systems are based on the ICH Q10. And we also make sure we have a really strong quality risk management system. So straight from our raw materials to our intermediary products to our finished goods, like everything we ensure goes through a highly vigorous quality control system. And all our data and our inventory is validated and maintained through the SAP. And we are continuously investing in the good manufacturing processes. So I'll just talk you through a bit about our manufacturing facility. We have 2 plants at the moment. One that focuses on human pharma is based in Babadogo, Ruaraka. And we also focus on a portfolio of animal health products, which is based in Thika, where Medicel began. So we have a large capacity for our beta-lactam and non-beta-lactam, which I've highlighted on the slide. And when it comes to being GMP accredited, we're WHO underway for our pre-approval. We have a strong recognition with the Pharmacy and Poisons Board in Kenya and the equivalent in Uganda, Zanzibar, Zambia, Malawi, Cote d'Ivoire, and Senegal. So in short, everything we do, we try and do it ethically, and it falls at the forefront of our production facility. So to tell you a bit about what we have, our Vision 2030, we are currently investing $15 million this year, and we are looking at setting up a manufacturing facility that is big enough to meet the demand of the country and for export purposes as well. So we aim to be completed in 2022, if all goes well. And just finally, we know it's like a very pressing time with COVID and everything that's been happening to the country and the world. So because healthcare is our priority, patients' lives are our priority, we just wanted to highlight that we have contributed to the Kiambu County COVID Relief Fund with 2 million shillings worth of medication, and we're in continuous support with Kiambu County being where we are based. So we'd just like to encourage everyone to follow us on social media to keep up with what we're up to. So I'll hand it back to, just to highlight, our portfolio will be discussed later on by my colleague Elizabeth, and I'd like to hand it back to Daniela. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sachi, for that overview of Dawa. You have a very beautiful campus that some of us probably have not visited. Now, without further ado, I'd like to invite our first speaker, and that's Dr. Wilberforce Wanyanga, to speak to us on the quality of Kenyan pharmaceuticals. You have about 20 minutes. Dr. Wanyanga, you can share your screen.
Thank you, all the participants this evening. Let me also take this opportunity to thank Dawa Pharmaceuticals, Dawa Group of Companies, and also the PSK for inviting me this evening to share a few thoughts on the quality of local pharmaceutical products in Kenya. As you know, this is a very big subject, and it may not be possible to cover all that one would want to talk about them, because there's a lot to talk. But in the 20 minutes that I have been given, I'll try as much as possible to highlight a few things. My discussion is divided into 4 parts. Number 1, the historical aspects of pharmaceutical manufacturing in Kenya, and then the background of quality and the reflections on the quality in Kenya, the benefits of improving the quality, and the critical steps for continuous quality journey. As you know, quality is a journey one must walk. And in doing so, there are quite a number of areas one have got to attend to. Now, let me give you a little bit of the historical background of pharmaceutical manufacturing in Kenya. We have several eras. The pre-independence era is when the first factory was established in Kenya in 1947. In 1953, we had the Sterling Winthrop, which is now GSK. And then in 1955, we had Barrow Wellcome established. 1963, we got our independence. And in 1974, we got the first partnership, a government and private sector partnership. This we can call private, nowadays we just call it private sector partnership, where when Dawa Limited was established 1974, and they were in doing the work together with and they had the arrangement with the Beecham, where they were manufacturing the Beecham products, mainly the Ampiclox, the Amoxil, and the Benpritin. They were well known in the 70s and in the 80s. Amoxil is still one of the products that is still on the essential medicines list and widely used in Kenya today. Thereafter, we had local pharmaceutical manufacturing growth. Rapid growth occurred in 1970 to around 1990. Quite a number of companies were established, and today you can see quite a number of them, the Regos, the Cosmos, the Labandala, the A-List, and quite a number of them. We have more than 35 manufacturers. In the era of, then the next era was the GMP development. I would call this when we had the development partners teaming up with the government of Kenya and getting the companies improved on the GMP status. Mainly WHO, PICS, GMP, UNIDO, East African Community, and the harmonization program, and then the East African Community. And then now we have what we call the technology transfer and the new investments and the collaboration era. This is a future one coming from this year onwards, and I can see quite a lot of discussions on vaccine productions, cephalosporins, bulk manufacturing, and the likes. And now with the advent of this new disease, corona, we don't know what else is going to come up from there. Now, if I take you through the journey, why this is happening is that we have the Kenya National Pharmaceutical Policy, which was discussion started in 2008 to 2010, and it put emphasis on local pharmaceutical production for self-sufficiency and reliance for the country. Thereafter, in 2010, UNIDO was on board, and the Kenya pharmaceutical sector profile was done, and they followed by Kenya Pharmaceutical Sector Development Strategy in 2012. And then the Kenya GMP roadmap was launched in 2014 and implemented from 2015. This is one of the documents I, as a person, has participated in fully and admired because it's now a continental document of reference. Many countries are adopting and implementing the GMP roadmaps. In 2020s, we have the implementation of the CAPA corrective action, preventive action activities, and new facilities are coming in place. And that gives you the history of what is happening in the country. But one may ask, what is the quality of pharmaceutical products? Simply said, it's a fitness for use. And when you're looking at fitness for use, we are looking at the premises, the products, the processes, the packaging, and including the usage, the formulations, and the compliance aspects. And this is because it impacts on therapeutic and health outcomes of when they are in use. It impacts on everyday life of our users, our citizens, wananchi. The prescribers demand quality. The high investments and in the area of investments, and it's more so on the return for investment, because to me, the bottom line matters much more for the investors. And this has also leads also to the growth of the auxiliary industry, like the packaging, the other industries. And in the end, is a total national economy that is improved. So pharmaceuticals when you are looking about the quality of pharmaceuticals, is one of the most important considerations any company would like to undertake. And I presume this is the case with the DAG group of companies. Now, looking at what is really, what defines these qualities requirements, we have the 17 principles as given by WHO on quality assurance and good manufacturing practices, and they cover both site and quality management systems. Now, when you look at all the 17, because we took time to assess each and every company in Kenya, and there were a few outstanding issues which came out, and which I think that if one has got to look at the quality of pharmaceuticals, then these are some of the areas of focus. The premises is one of them, because premises is the question of the design. How is it designed? How does it include the other facilities like water and HVAC system, the modern way, because the water we are talking about here is of pharmaceutical grade. We are talking of equipment, the modern equipment and so forth. Of course, then you are talking of and that is just how they appear within the premises and are placed there. Then you have the utilities which accompany them, and the premises go together. And then the issues of sanitation and hygiene are also quite key and need really focus, because when the premises is not set up properly, then they become an issue. Qualification and validation, these are the quality aspects that one has got to look into, verifying whether what has been set up is happening or not. And more so the documentation that is used and the data, and more, and let me say data integrity is one of the concerns at that time when we did the assessment. And I might just give an example that data is the most reliable bit when you are trying to assess the quality of an establishment. Then the materials, especially the APIs, the active principles, and whatever else that you use for manufacturing. And then one of the other areas of concern was the good practices in quality control. And more so, I think I would emphasize in microbiology. Microbiology has become so important because each and every aspect of quality assurance requires data generated from microbiology. And therefore, there are quite a number of issues we may discuss here, but we don't have the time. So I'll move on to what did we do, what have we done to analyze the industry. And this brings us to one of the aspects that I'm fond of and I like talking about, the risk approach to the quality, assessing the industry. Now, what you may be able to see, I hope it's clear to all of you, is a big box with good colors. Let's look at green. Green would represent a well-managed pharmaceutical company. B would represent those companies which are just trying to reach the apex. And C are companies which are on the lower ends, probably struggling to get into B and A. Now, on this risk-based approach, we are looking at the low-risk companies and the high-risk companies. In the low-risk companies, it means that the GMP is very good when it comes to quality management system on your left. And on the horizontal, as it is the site-related issues to GMP. And when you do the assessment, you give each and every of these aspects a score. And this score will lead you into grading the companies into whether they are low risk or high risk, or whether the GMP is good or not. And this approach is very good to the extent that it helps the companies and the inspectorate to judge the movement, whether they are moving or not, up or not. And I myself, I call it a popcorn effect, because the companies, when you do the assessment, will be oscillating between A, B, and C. And when they oscillate on that, the most important thing is to move the companies C and B up upward, so that they reach, sorry, they reach the grade A, where they are fully compliant. And that is where the business opportunities are in A, because B, you may get, you may not get, but in A, you are sure that there's growth in terms of quality. This diagram is rich, and we may not be able to go to the depth of it, but the most important thing, the reason I call it popcorn effect, is that anytime you fall from A or from B to C, you get burned. You feel the heat, like most of you who like popcorn know that they are made by fire, and the fire is the regulator here. They'll give you warnings, they'll give you sanctions and so forth, and you don't want to go there. So the popcorns never burn, they are always up, and that's what we require of each of the companies. And I must say, most companies have moved that route. Now, one may ask, what is the evidence that the companies in Kenya have made progress in this area? One is that there is now direct engagement with the government, especially Pharmacy and Poisons Board and the Ministry of Industrialization. There is high-level government support, high-level government interactions. Then secondly, there's a development of favorable policies in policies and directives to support the local manufacturing. We have seen the gazettement of tax exemption of HVAC equipment. The national budget policy this year expressed in writing that they support local pharmaceutical manufacturers. And we have seen it in July, when there is preferential procurement of 128 products, which means that KEMSA and the other companies who may be buying, if any of the 128 products is manufactured in Kenya, and it's of high quality and it's of good price, then they'll be given the preferential treatment. Then of course there is more buying from KEMSA. There's a reinvestment. Everywhere you go to the industry, there is a reinvestment and infrastructure improvement. We have seen a few multinationals coming here and a few companies setting up. And we have seen very little adverse reporting of the quality of local manufacturers. And that is really a plus for this country, because Kenya is regarded as the hub for pharmaceutical manufacturing within the region. So one may be able to ask, as I go towards the conclusion, is what are the steps, critical steps to maintain yourself in the A class? The one is just quality, safe, efficacious, and it means you have got to look at the strength, the purity, and the specifications, the standards, maintaining most of them. The number two is quality by design, that is of the facility and the product and the processes, to ensure products are consistent and attain the predefined quality standards. This can be summarized in the 4 Qs, or the 4 Qs concept, which is the quality of design, the quality of installation, the quality of the operation, and the quality of performance. All these have got to be validated, and once they have been validated, then you can be able to see each one of them to reduce the chances of suboptimal performance. Then the quality risk management, which is a new concept and is being practiced in every other sector, to assess the risk of the quality issues and select and implement and control what the issues are. You realize that it may not be possible for the inspectors to look at each and every aspect, and therefore the quality risk management concept is becoming of a very useful tool to check what's happening or to monitor the industry. And then number 4 is the CAPA, corrective action and preventive action. This one is just to investigate and understand what is the root cause and how can you prevent it from recurring. And if you find the root cause, then there is the issue of the change control. How do you change it? You have got to manage that control so that there's no haphazard way of saying I'm going to make this change, but there's a scientific and industrial way in which you can manage the control and know that the control is only what you have stipulated down and you need to do. And then becoming more important, this used to be there long ago and is coming back, quality unit within the facility. This one is a group of a team within the company that promotes quality policy within the organization and promotes a quality culture amongst the staff. And then once you do all that, you need to have a self-audit and inspection so that you see whether all the aspects that you have put in place, you are able to comply with the current GMP regulations. That is the quality, the production, the facilities, the equipment, the laboratory controls, materials and packaging and so forth. All these are within your, because that is what is going to be inspected. And I finish by saying, what are the footprints for quality? If you want to look at the footprints for basic footprints for quality, you have got to look at the vision. And if you look at the vision and mission, at least our group has, I checked, and they have to be the most respected, dynamic, and diversified business enterprise in Africa. That's big, that's good vision. And to grow business through ethical value creation for better quality life and for all. So each company requires that wants to grow must be able to look at the vision and growth. And you can be able to see from the pictures that the one that was started in 1974 and the facilities that are there in 2020, there's a remarkable growth which can be seen. Then develop a quality policy so that you can be able to manage and have a culture within the company. And the other aspect is product identity and ownership. Like I said earlier, that when Dawa started, we used to have products, Ambiclox, Benbritin, Amoxil, and so forth. Those were products which were, everybody knew where they were coming from Dawa. And I'm sure that the current management will have their products again on the market that can attract the same strengths and identity. Then you should have, a company should be able to have a process for new products and branding so that you can be able to be identified with your own products. And what is often forgotten is people behind the success, that the people behind success must come out. They must be seen, they must be known that so and so works with this big, good company that gives us good quality. And I've seen the issue of corporate social responsibilities, where you are making known to everybody, even those ones who may not be able to afford the products, will know that these products come from a good company, and they'll tell their brothers and sisters, please buy for me this product. it must be a good one. And then you must have the foot soldiers, promotion and advertising. Long ago, we used to have our football. I'm sure you will be having another football team that might be in the Super League or whatever. That is something that we should not keep a blind eye on, but is one way of at least knowing that there is a company that is focused on quality, and the products that they produce are going to be used by the citizens of this country, and there are people behind that, and so forth, so that there's growth within the company and within the country and within the region. So that is all I can tell you for now. There are quite a number of aspects which we need to explore again, go into detail on how do we attribute this quality, especially in the areas of GMP, in the areas of what I mentioned, the 4 Qs, and the areas of products and so forth. So there's a lot, and I cannot be able to cover all this in these few minutes that I have talked. Let me thank you again for listening and being with me. It's late in the night, but I hope that we shall be able to listen more to the other speakers so that we can make a meaning for this sacrifice we're giving this evening. Thank you very much, and over to you, moderator.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wanyanga, for such a comprehensive and insightful presentation. Please look out for questions that we'll answer at the end of the presentation. Now allow our next speaker to share his screen. And our next speaker is Dr. Antonio Hipolito. He shall be speaking to us about pharmacy as a business. Welcome, Dr. Hipolito, over to you.
Hello, I'm very pleased to be with you today. I just will share my slides, if you don't mind, first of all. Are you seeing, Daniela?
Yes, we can see and we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, thank you very much. So first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. I will try to give some words in Swahili. Of course, I don't know how to speak Swahili, but I'm a fast learner. I will try to say hello to everyone in Swahili. It's habari tetofos. No? Daniela?
You got the first one right.
Asante sana. It's okay?
Yes, perfect, perfect.
Oh, okay. Not perfect, but okay. I'll try harder next time. Okay, so I love Africa because my grandmother was from Guinea-Bissau, and I have several cousins living in Angola and Mozambique. So I'm very, very pleased to be with people from Africa, with colleagues. And of course, I will try to do my best. My English is not so perfect as yours, but I will try to do it comprehensible. Okay, first of all, I'd like to thank the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya, of course. And again, DAVA. DAVA is made, my first invitation was from DAVA. And of course, I'd like to thank all the people from the management team. And of course, people who trust me to give you some words. Of course, my experience is a European experience. I have not been working in Africa. I know a little bit of Angola, of Mozambique, as you know, was former Portuguese colonies. So, of course, we are very familiar with people from these countries. But of course, in Kenya, I just have been once in Nairobi and in Tanzania too. So I apologize for any mistake or for anything that it's not very clear. And please feel free to ask me something that I will be very pleased to answer you. Okay, so my background, as Daniela has told, I'm a pharmacist. I've now been studied medicine also. I complete my PhD, and then my interests were clearly in the management of pharmacies My PhD was done in this thematic. And I own a pharmacy, which is a family pharmacy since 1923. So it's a long way to my family in working with pharmacies. And they were all pharmacists. So I belong to a big family of pharmacist people. And I also teach management and communication to pharmacists, to future pharmacists, so to students of University of Pharmacy. I was the former president of our National Pharmacist Society, so your Kenya Pharmacist Society also. It's the same, of course. And I like to read, to write books, and of course I've been trying to make some conference, some consultation in this area, and I write also 15 books about these topics. Okay, my pharmacy is in Lisbon. These are just small aspects. On the left side, it's the entrance, of course. On the right side, right side, sorry. It's a robot. We use the robot because my pharmacy has three levels, and right now the basement is with a robot, which puts us all the medicines and the products faster, because of course we are dealing with people who like to be attended efficiently, and of course with fast moving of our professionals. So we need much more a fast movement of the robot that ourselves, of course. And it's a basement, so it's difficult to come and go all the time. So left side down, it's one of the aspects of the public room. And we also have been manipulating drugs since ever. So we have a good laboratory. It's not what you see, of course. It's just a small aspect, but we all do in Portugal. We all do some manipulations in pharmacy. So we do our own drugs. My agenda for today, I split it in 3 aspects. So I will talk a little bit of what I intend to be the mission and the business of the pharmacist, management, what are for me the key success factors, and of course some challenges to the future. So beginning with the mission and the business, I split it into 2 because I definitely think it will be always to have a balance, a proper balance between these two things. So one thing is our degree, our formation in the scientific area as pharmacists. Of course, I do my best being ethic, being of course supportable to people who I serve, and of course the business side, which my intention is to create, as the slide shows, added value to the population. I believe this, and of course I believe that we cannot do it with a fast moving, but it turns into a proper way. It's a field where we have to invest to add some profits in the future. So for me, mission, it's very important to be ethic, to be presentable to my community. And of course, I have to do business with my community, with people who believe me, who trust me. And this is, for instance, in Portugal, it's a very important thing, which is to create trust in people, and people will attend your pharmacy as sure. So my business model is based on 4 premises, which is trust. I think it's the most important thing, is to be trustable. Proximity, of course, in Portugal, we have more or less 10 million people, and we have 2,800 pharmacies. So we serve more or less for each pharmacy 2,500 persons. Okay, and of course there's a big concurrence of another shops. For instance, supermarkets also sell some drugs, OTC, based on OTC and supplement drugs, but they make of course a very competitive field to us. Availability, of course, in my pharmacy, for instance, I have 15 persons working, and 10 of them are pharmacists, okay? And we work all the time. We work from 8:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. So during this time, I have 2 teams. And of course, all the time, there are pharmacists working together with technicians, of course, but serving people, being the counter and trying to do their best all the time. Knowledge, of course, we are pharmacists, and if we run a pharmacy, we have to have knowledge. We have to be science persons, for instance, and of course, this is a field where, for instance, proximity and availability, they are very important, but it doesn't allow us to be the best if we don't know a good knowledge, a good formation of our people. So all the time we are making formations inside the pharmacy and of course outside with companies. The key success factors for me in terms of the management of the pharmacy are 3. So I will try to support my ideas. First of all, attract customers and create loyalty, obtain good margins, and of course manage stocks. This in Portugal, for instance, are 3 things that we are also developing in other shops, of course. All the shops trying to attract people, to create loyalty, to obtain good margins. So it's not a specific thing from pharmacies, but of course, if we don't are able to do this, we will lose people. We don't get public, we don't get customers. First of all, attraction and loyalty. How? Of course, with good merchandising. Here in Portugal, we are running this topic 10 years ago, not more than that. So 10 years ago, you will not see, as we see now, things that are proper attraction to the people who enter the pharmacy, the customers, the people who are, of course, outside and see the window. So nowadays we are working very hard in this, because we know that approximately half of so 50% of 100% people buy with attraction. So buy with no planning before. So they enter the pharmacy and it's a spontaneous purchase. So we know that, and we all are trying to maintaining that balance between ethic and business. We are trying to develop merchandising as other shops, other stores are doing so fine in Europe and in Portugal, of course. Service, I don't believe that the pharmacies could be, I would say, a well-succeeded store if we don't serve well people. So we have to be technically very good. And of course, we have to be good logistics. I showed you before the robot, what I call the robot. It's what is the machine who gets the drugs and put us in an elevator, and then the lift goes up and gives us a drug, for instance, in 10 to 15 seconds. And if the robot was not working, when the robot was not working, I spent more than 2.5 minutes to get the drugs to people. It's the minimum time that I will get it. So you understand easily that 15 seconds to 2.5 minutes for a pharmacy which attends more or less 300 people per day, it's of course a big difference. So we try to have a good logistic inside and outside, as I will show you later, to do the service to customers. And of course, we believe in human resources. The commercial dynamism is made by persons. So pharmacy is a business where we want to be personalized people working with another people, with customers, to give them the best. It's not a machine. Of course, some pharmacies in Europe are running this field, trying to be less spending in human resources, and of course substitute some people with machines. But we in Portugal, we continue to believe in the power of people, and of course, as you in Africa, we like to talk, we like to be close to people, and of course our human resources is very, very important. It's a very important issue that we also are developing all the time. So merchandising, of course, my only resource, my only source of information is, of course, some things that I have told to Dava, and of course to obtain some information about yourself. And of course, I know that African people have this good energy, okay? And we have tried also in Portugal to be able to have this good energy, and of course to do some in-store well communication. So if we communicate well in the pharmacy, it will be much easier for us to be trustable, to be affordable, and of course to attract persons to the pharmacy. And of course, our categories have to be organized, as you see in the left photo. It's a pharmacy, I believe, in Kenya, and I believe that we are always trying to organize better the pharmacies and to be much more focused on communication, well communication in pharmacies. Good margin. This is a topic that I think it's very important to all the owners of the pharmacies, and of course to the business, because sometimes we think more in price than in margin. What runs a business is not price, it's the margin. Of course, if you have bad prices, you could not sell to customers. And of course, the price is very important, but think always in margin. You have to see what your margin is. You have to compare with other stores, with other pharmacies. And of course, you have to be close to the producers. For instance, I believe Dava is a trustable company, like a professor said before. And of course, this for me is very important in Portugal also. Of course, I have not Dava in Portugal, but I work with several companies, maintaining, of course, my distance to the companies, which means that I will not be able to do all the things that companies ask for me. But of course, I'd like to share with the companies some important information, some communication. And this for me is so important that margin is an aspect that I am always trying to improvise with them, and always trying to give them a good perspective of what we want for the pharmacies is to serve people, is to negotiate with customers, with suppliers, and of course at the end of the day we have our business done. Okay, and that's all. It's a simple question, but I believe this is some things in the world. It's better to be simple than to be, of course, much more complicated. So as I told you, I negotiate counterparts with suppliers. So for instance, my team does certain formations, some teachable sessions and so on with suppliers. Of course, we compare this with other suppliers, and we choose the one who gives us more conditions, not commercial conditions, but credible conditions. So as I told you, formation, as I told you, information, communication in pharmacies. They, for instance, in Portugal, it's very usual that the company negotiate windows with us, try to maintain information credible about this, the medicines, about the brands they are commerciated, that are trading with persons. And of course, at the end of the day, as I told you, it's important to be a simple question, which is margin, and of course, good trustable suppliers. So stocks, these are for sure the most important thing, and I should say, in the major of the situations, this is a matter that doesn't matter. Sorry for the for the inconvenience of the word, but what I'm saying is that we pharmacists, we don't care about stocks. We care about sales. We care about suppliers and negotiate with suppliers and have good prices, but we don't care about stocks. But the most important way to manage well a pharmacy is to manage well stocks. If you don't manage stocks, you will lose. And this is for a simple condition. Generally, you pay more for a product than you generate in profit. So, for instance, in Portugal, and I believe your margin is less than in Portugal sometimes, in Portugal, margins goes from 25 to 45, sometimes exceptionally 50%. So what I'm saying to you is that I spend more in buying stocks, in buying products, than I will gain, I will profit from them, okay? So one product, that's for sure, costs more than provide margin. So that's why I'm asking, and I'm not asking because I'm not seeing you, but okay, I'm just telling you that profit is very important issue, and you obtain profit if you have a good balance in managing stocks. That's not a topic for today. I have not time to explore this, but most of my conferences in Portugal are about stocks and how about we have to deal with stocks all the time, all day long in a pharmacy. So what I believe are the challenges to the future. So clearly, we try to partnership with suppliers. That's our main interest. For instance, in Portugal, we are several pharmacies. So I told you that we are 2,800 pharmacies, and try to understand that all these pharmacies belongs to a sales group and a purchase group. So what this means? This means that, for instance, my group has 50 pharmacies that buy together. And as buying together, we get more conditions from our suppliers, okay? And this generates, of course, lots of partnerships with lots of conditions. And this is, for me, a proper way to do what we do best in Portugal. This is to be close from each other. So pharmacies understand that our competitives, our concurrence, it's not clearly other pharmacies, but it's other shops. So pharmacies try to get together to buy better and to buy more, okay? And at the same time, we do this by partnership with suppliers, okay? So challenge for the future will also be rentabilities of sales, okay? If you sell $100 or your coin or my coin, it means that you have to obtain a certain amount to operate your pharmacy, isn't it? So you have to profit something to open the door all the time, all the day, and keep the door open and pay to people and pay to suppliers. So this is very important in terms of rentability. Of course, I have to deal with this all the time. I have to make some arithmetic. I have to obtain some better conditions for suppliers, and that's at the same time I have to optimize my price to the consumers. But if you are always thinking about price, we are losing focus on rentability. So please be aware of this. Price is very important, I know it, but it's very important also to buy well. All the time companies are profitable if they buy well. If they don't buy well to the suppliers, they are not, of course, rentable at the end of the month. And of course, I will show you some new tendencies that are growing in Portugal and of course in other parts of the world. As I would see, first of all, for instance, drones delivering medicines. this is very important in the countryside of Portugal, where we have few people living, and of course there are no pharmacies close to this village, to this small countryside's village. So in the meantime, we discovered that technology with the drones and of course with other communication that we use are very interesting to deal and to deliver medicines.
Dr. Hipolito, I'll give you 2-3 minutes to wind up.
Okay, I'm finishing. Thank you, Daniela. Sorry, sorry for this. Okay, so Pharmacist is working always with doctors in alerting and follow-up therapies. This is very important. Of course, this is an announcement from US, but in Portugal, we are doing the same as in many countries in Europe. And I think to be close to the doctors are very, very important issue to be successful. Alert medicines box. So it means that, for instance, you go into a counter, you sell some drugs, and you could also selling this alert box to, of course, as the name says, alert people the time to take their medicines. And of course, something that is very important, it's pharmacies on duty 24 hours, which means that we are trying to be well succeeded with technology, and sometimes pharmacies have, for instance, pharmacists in the other side of the line, 24 hours, taking some doubts, working with some therapies, some important issues and some important doubts that people have. They could communicate also to a pharmacist. Okay, this is the last slide. So for me, the future is selling health solutions. We have not to be so confined to sell just medicines. Of course, in Portugal and I think in your country also, we sell health products, cosmetics, optic, acoustic specific things like foods, several services like metabolic checkups, smoking cessation, nutritional appointments with persons. And of course, we have done lots of COVID-19 fast immunologic tests since this pandemic. But nowadays, of course, what I'm trying to sell to you, the idea is that you have to open the pharmacy to sell health solutions, not to sell diseases, not to sell, of course, things that border people, but to be happy to be much more healthy solutions than diseases. Okay, and I believe that Dava Group will continue to speak about this team, this management team, and this topic, of course. I hope that I could be with you again. Thank you very much for this time, and I hope to be at least comprehensible. And please feel free to ask something if you want. Thank you very much, Daniela. Sorry for my delay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hipolito, for that amazing presentation. We've heard about robots. We've seen your laboratory for extemporaneous preparations. You've mentioned about protecting against global enterprises, some of the things we are also dealing with here. So I'm sure this will elicit a lot of questions. I'll ask you to just keep an eye on the Q&A tab, Dr. Hipolito, and answer as many questions as you can on the Q&A chat. Thank you very much. We'll now jump straight to our next speaker, who is Professor Ndemo, a very respected lecturer to many of us. And he will speak to us about management of NCDs and the role of the pharmacist. Over to you, Professor Ndemo. You can share your screen. You have about 20 minutes.
All right, thank you. Okay, let me see. No, Daniela, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear, and we can see your screen.
Okay, thank you. First and foremost, let me actually thank the DAWA group for giving me this opportunity to present tonight, and also let me thank the pharmaceutical side of Kenya and all the participants. I can actually see there are almost like almost 450 participants. This is pretty, or that 452. Very impressive. So anyway, having listened to Dr. Wanyanga, Dr. Antonio speak, unfortunately for me, they've been covering areas where there's a lot of money. I'm not going to talk about areas where there's not a lot of money, but extremely important too. Tonight, I'm going to address the role of the pharmacist in the management of non-communicable diseases. I'm trying to make a case for medication therapy management. Again, I believe most of you have known that I'm a long-standing educator, having spent like 30 years. I was a pioneer in the doctor pharmacy programs in the US as a Fulbright scholar. I've worked here for some time as up to a senior lecturer, and then I left for the US as an associate professor. Going forward, course of time, I took a lot of interest in pharmaceutical care and specifically in running medication therapy management clinics. So I hope I will share some of my experiences, but very briefly. A big challenge to try and fit in 20 minutes. So first, let me talk about what I'm going to talk about. I will try and define. For some of us, having been an educator, I don't want to take for granted. I have to define what a non-communicable disease. Of course, probably it's self-explanatory, but I will explain, or rather describe it. I will also list the most prevalent NCDs, which means this is where we pay more attention. There are many, but there are those common ones that we should pay attention to. Then quickly, I will describe the clinical and the economic burden of non-communicable diseases. What impact does it have on us economically? And clinically, what are the consequences when you don't manage them? So again, most of this information, of course, will be pretty basic to you, but more so, I want to highlight the role of the pharmacist in reducing this clinical and economic burden that are second to non-communicable diseases. I also relate briefly the Kenyan Ministry of Health goals with respect to management of NCDs. And then I will then quickly go to the current management of NCDs. The sixth aspect of my presentation will to try and highlight the fact that the drug-related problems are equally very important, and to most of you, surprisingly, actually drug-related deaths are the third leading causes of death when you combine all causes. Then I will talk about the concept of pharmaceutical care, my favorite topic, in addressing these drug-related problems. And finally, I will introduce MTM, or medication therapy management, and why it should now be considered as an essential health benefit under universal health coverage. Then finally, I will conclude and probably expect questions after that. So moving forward, so that Daniela doesn't shut me out. What is a non-communicable disease? Obviously, it's not plagiarism, it's a cut and paste. You can see it's a non-communicable disease, or NCD, is a medical condition or a disease which is non-infectious. NCDs are diseases that are of a long duration and generally slow in progression. These are not necessarily acute conditions like infections, which can actually be resolved or cured. These are slow and progressive, but nevertheless, they lead to very high mortality, as we'll realize later. So a non-communicable disease is just what the name suggests. You cannot communicate to another person. And we should also see the difference between a medical condition and a disease, so it doesn't confuse us. Now, so that we're on the same page, since I said an NCD could be a disease or a condition, a disease is actually a pathological response to internal or external factors. In other words, when you think of a disease, you actually think of a system. So it's like you may have a cardiovascular disease, which means your cardiovascular system has actually been affected. You may have an ear infection, means the ear is affected. So it's a systems that we refer to. And normally the medical doctors will do a diagnosis and of course come up with the recommended treatments. But a condition is more of a state. It includes the disease. You can have a wound, a lesion. So it's inclusive. A syndrome is the state generally. So all diseases actually can be, you can easily refer to a disease as a condition, as a medical condition. So that is why I wanted to tell you that it's the medical conditions I've already given here. Is generally when we talk about disorder, I hope you understand, it's a disruption of function as a result of a disease. So for example, you may have a cardiac problems and your heart rhythm as a disorder is as a result of the cardiac disease that you have. So I hope we keep that in mind as we go along. Now, what are the most prevalent non-communicable diseases? The reason why we identify is so that from a public health perspective, we can actually address it. And oftentimes, these are the ones that eat most of the budget. And that is why, even for us, it's more to pay attention, even in our curriculum, to actually address these conditions, these NCDs. Cancer, of course, is leading there. Cardiovascular disease, diabetes, chronic kidney disease, and chronic respiratory disease. These are the four, or rather the five top ones that have been identified by WHO. Now, as you can see, graphically, it's the same thing that I mentioned. You can actually see the five that I was mentioned about: the chronic respiratory disease, cardiovascular, heading the way, 33. That is, assuming these are all 100%, you can see the junk goes to cardiovascular disease, cancer, chronic respiratory, and then diabetes is there. The percentage can be very misleading. You can actually see that diabetes is not small, but you talk about 4% of all chronic diseases, it runs into millions, depending on the population. So percentage can be very misleading, but I just want to make sure that each one of them, maybe it's 1%, is actually extremely important. Now, let's talk about the clinical burden so that we can make a case for the role of the pharmacist. These are the key facts. The 9 NCDs, the non-communicable diseases, actually kill approximately 41 million people each year, annually. And it's equivalent to 71% of all deaths globally. That's a huge jump. Oftentimes for you who have been students, 70% is a distinction. So really that's extremely high. But out of this 41 million, the 41 million, 15 of this, which is, I don't know whether it's about 30% or so. I'm supposed to be very good at mathematician, by the way. But 15 of these are actually premature because the majority of these deaths occur among the 30 to 69-year-old. Those are premature. So for those who are not 70, like for me, who's about 80 years now, that's a very young age, by the way. But 8 of the premature, these 15 million, 85% occur in developing countries. So it looks like we almost 100% occur in developing countries, apparently. It's a very high percentage, by the way. And there are 4 groups of diseases. These 4 groups, generally out of the 41 million people who die as a result of this is cardiovascular diseases, cancers, respiratory disease, and diabetes. And these 4 account for 80% of premature deaths. These 4 groups. So the case I'm making here is that we should pay more attention to those four diseases, especially. Now, do they have any socio-economic impact? Of course they do. Once thought as disease of the rich, that's when I grew up, I knew diabetes for those who have money from the Western, but now they're the leading causes of death in low and middle income countries. Obviously, the reason being poverty now associated with this disease for the simple reason we are incapable of actually addressing them because we can't afford the healthcare. costs. So NCDs are fundamentally a development and socioeconomic issue. It strikes both the rich and the poor people. For the rich, it's because of urbanization. They're able to drink a lot, they're able to smoke a lot, so they have issues. For us, okay, there's the poor nutrition, we can't afford to take ourselves, we can't afford the medications. So both, we have problems, but for different reasons. So what's important for our developing country is a poverty that is actually now linked with NCDs, no longer thought as for the rich. That's the message from here. Now, is there any policy on NCDs? Yes, there is. If you read the Kenya Health Policy 2014 to 2030, it has prioritized NCDs because it's eating a lot in the budgets. And I will give you the policy statement that the extracted for Kenya Health Policy. Now, this is referred to as the subset is referred to as a Kenya National Strategy for Control of Non-Communicable Disease. There is an apparent decline in morbidity, reduction in mortality and mortality due to communicable conditions. This is the infectious disease and so forth, obviously including typhoid, diarrhea, all sorts of waterborne diseases. That has essentially been reduced. There's a decline. But there's an increase in the burden of non-communicable diseases. That is for a fact. Now, the second strategic objective of this strategy is it targets to halt or reverse the rising burden of non-communicable conditions. The fifth strategic objective is focused on putting in place health promotion interventions that will address risk factors for health. To me, all along I thought the healthcare that we have was really meant to keep us healthy. Apparently, in allopathic medicines, and Dr. Antonio is training to be a medical doctor, is actually, they're dealing with consequences. He's going to deal with sick people. People are already sick. And unfortunately, we have now realized it's too late. It's best if we actually talk about preventive measures. Medicine traditionally has never been thought of addressing the healthy and telling them not to stay healthy. But the more focus, as of course, public health now is increasing as a discipline. So the government has realized that it will put actually the fifth strategic objective is focused on putting in place health promotion interventions that will address risk factors, note risk factors to health. This include health promotion interventions aimed at improvement of individual level behaviors, physical environment, and societal environment. Remember the individual level. That means the pharmacy will come in when we counsel patients. It's one of the strategies. Also, the environment in which we live and society as a whole. We all have to collectively be responsible. So that is just a take from the strategic plan. But let's look at the management of NCDs. And slowly this will lead us into the medication management that I was talking about. There are two main strategies: lifestyle changes and actually medication management. Let's talk about lifestyle changes as a strategy to halt the progression or prevent NCDs. As this was borrowed from a WHO, you can actually see when you talk about a risk factor, like now, for example, obesity is a risk factor. Hypertension is a risk factor for cardiac conditions. So in other words, the reason why we talk about risk factors, not all risk factors are actually modifiable. Some of them are not, like age. You really cannot grow any younger. Unfortunately, that clock just keeps ticking.
Okay, I think we've lost Professor. I think he's having challenges with his connection, but I see him trying to reconnect. So if you could just bear with us for a few seconds.
Was that me?
Yeah, we can't see your screen anymore.
Oh, is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. Let me do it again. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that. Just a minute. I will try and yeah. So what I was saying quickly so that I can get the gist of my presentation, there are all these risk factors, all of them here. They lead to the non-communicable diseases up here. The respiratory ones, the cardiovascular disease, diabetes, etc. So definitely the good news, these risk factors are modifiable and they are in your own control. So let's move on. And these are the take-home messages, which I'm kind of repeating what I've just said. Almost all these factors are modifiable, by the way. So it means the development and progression of NCD can be halted and prevented through community or patient education and counseling. This has obviously obvious implication for community pharmacists, especially on individual counseling. Let me go to, okay. Now, as I said, there are two strategies, lifestyle changes, and the second one is medication therapy. You do realize that in all those diseases, especially the one I mentioned, we're talking about cancer, talking about diabetes, etc., cardiovascular disease, the mainstay strategy here of management is actually through medication. However, there is pretty good evidence that suggests that we do have poor drug therapy outcomes because of inappropriate use. Additionally, there is evidence of significant drug-related morbidity and mortality. I've always said, for those of you who have been my students, that actually medications are poisons taken in small doses. So if you don't follow the instructions, you're merely taking poison. And also, unfortunately, it's also associated with poor economic impact because then sick people are not very productive. Remember, this is something that I've always preached. Drugs, if there's anything you want to take today from here, they do not have brains. So if you have some arrogant consultant telling you, I know what I'm doing, it's a lie. Those drug molecules have no clue who you are. They will do what they want to do. So if you don't understand the way the body handles the drugs and what the drug does to the body, you will get poor results. So that means the pharmacist has a societal role to ensure safe, effective, and efficient use of medication. In other words, safety is a big aspect to make them work because they don't have brains, and to use them efficiently so that you give the most affordable medications. Those are the three, that's the theme for UHC. In fact, we have some recommendation on some guidelines that involves pharmacists to improve safety, effectiveness, and efficiency of how medications are used in under UHC. Now, are there drug-related problems? The answer is yes. And here, the data that I have is all American or United States or USA data. It's estimated that in fact, 1.5 million preventable. The reason why I'm emphasizing that preventable. Had you moved in as a duly qualified pharmacist, you could have prevented this 1.5 million medication-related adverse events each year. There is also increased concerns for there is an increased concern of very significant drug-related morbidity and mortality in the United States. Morbidity in the sense that there are a lot of people who are drugs all the day because they took some sedating antihistamines, or they're having diarrhea, there is actually morbidity associated with that. And of course, the death associated with it. Normally, you don't see as many deaths reported because it's the physician who prescribed and it's the physician who writes the death certificate. He's not gonna self-incriminate. I believe that's one of the reasons. But anyway, again, there's a very good video from Europe that will show you on how disastrous our therapies are. Now, there's evidence of preventable drug-related hospital admissions there, which are associated with 30 of all these admissions, 30% are due to prescribing errors, and 30% mind you is a percentage. That's huge. And then some of them, like over 33%, non-adherence. This is the responsibility of the patient, the prescriber and the patient. And of course, not only the patient, the pharmacist comes in here and monitoring. Could you believe it? After practicing for 30 years, I actually realized drugs are never monitored. The traditional method a methodology or practice we have is a piece of paper that goes to the fund, then you fill in. There's no monitoring after that. The idea of follow-up after a month is not monitoring. Monitoring is where you follow up immediately the first day, and then probably the second or third to see if there are any adverse events. So there's no monitoring at the moment, as it is, no significant monitoring actually. And again, cost-wise, it cost the US, whatever government, $200 billion. This is because of the adverse events. Some of them are hospitalized, and also some of them because of underdosing. It's not always because of the adverse events. It's also because of mismanagement where they are underdosed and they end up going to hospitals in ICU, and it costs more. That cost put together is 200 billion. Actually, right now, this is an old figure. I think I picked up an old figure. That thing is drawing out to 300 billion, a billion and over. Now,
Professor, I'll give you 5 more minutes, please.
Okay, let me quickly go through this, and I think I will quickly finish in those 5 minutes. Now, the whole concept of pharmaceutical care came in because of this evidence of drug-related morbidity and mortality. And generally, all professions, including medicine and nursing, and pharmacy, and now pharmacy, you have to have a philosophy of practice. In this case, this is almost the oath the pharmacist is taking. It's a patient-centered practice in which the practitioner assumes responsibility for drug-related needs and is held accountable for this commitment. In other words, the provision of a responsible therapy for the purpose of achieving patient outcomes. In other words, there's come a time, and the time is ripe, where pharmacists must take responsibility. Before, the model was actually to fill the prescription for the physician to take responsibility. But when it comes to drug therapy outcomes, they now share the responsibility. That's the current philosophy. And when I talk about meeting all the drug-related needs, what do I mean for those who have never attended my lectures? There are 4 drug-related needs. Number 1, the drug must be indicated. There must be good reason for that. The dosage you are giving, that's dose frequency and duration, must be adequate. And this is not efficacy. Efficacy is referring to the population, effectively in an individual patient. That's why we learn about pharmacotherapy. And then the safety, it must be safe, and the patient must be adhering. In other words, for you to get the best outcomes, you must find the most appropriate, the most effective, the safest, and the patient must be willing and able to adhere to the instructions. Now, quickly, these are just highlights. And again, as you do realize, only 20 minutes. Out of those needs, if they are not met, this is what we call, you will have potentially 7 drug therapy problems that must be resolved before you achieve the results that you want. What is a drug therapy problem by definition? Is any undesirable event or risk experienced by the patient that involves suspect to involve drug therapy and interfered with achieving the desired goals of therapy. So all those drug-related needs, if they are not met, then you have drug therapy problems, and there are very specific causes, which I have not shown here. for each of those drug therapy. There are 7. Out of 4 drug-related needs, the potential 7 drug therapy problems. The role of the pharmacist in summary is to identify, resolve, and prevent these drug therapy problems. Now, let me quickly run because I don't have much time. The main key elements in pharmaceutical care, there are 4 aspects to the pharmaceutical care. We think of the practitioner who must have appropriate responsibility to do what I just said. Then there's the patient expectations. All you do must be patient-centered. The patient comes first. And thirdly, you must have a right attitude, the caring paradigm. Caring is feeling for other people. And finally, without appropriate policies, you will not succeed. So the government has to come up with appropriate policies to support those activities because there is a social need to reduce the drug-related morbidity and mortality. Now, to deliver this pharmaceutical care, there has to be a strategy. That strategy is called medication therapy management. It's a distinct service or a group of services that optimize therapeutic outcomes for individual patients that are independent of, but can occur with the conjunction with drug product. You don't have to go, you can do run MTM clinics without necessarily providing the product, but always is in collaboration with other healthcare professionals. You don't do it in isolation. MTM, when you intervene to make changes, make recommendations, is a clinical service. This is not like you're not a drug dealer, it's actually a clinical service. And then finally, because I'm about to finish, I think I have 2 minutes, there has to be a process. All these professions, pharmacists have come to realize the MDs and the medical doctors, they have what we call the SOAP format. You collect subjective data, objective, and do an assessment and come up with a plan. The pharmacist has 5 steps. He collects information on the drug, the patient, and the disease, and decides whether all the drug-related needs have been met. If they are not met, then there are drug therapy problems. He comes up with care plans and comes up with a set of activities and schedule to solve them and implement that plan, and then follow up to make sure, monitor, and evaluate to see that all the goals of therapy set out in the plan are actually met. Now, this is my concluding remarks. The MTM is also time, and this recommendation was made to the Ministry of Health. It must be considered as an essential health benefits. When you get your insurance cover, you will cover dental, medical, and others, including medication therapy management, where your job, you as a patient can actually benefit by actually sitting with a clinically trained pharmacist, not only clinically, all the other pharmacists, including the pharmaceutical technology, they will actually need to be provided and paid for. This has been shown to improve both the clinical outcomes, the economic outcomes, and humanistic outcomes. You have patients who are happy with their therapy because you have addressed their problems and they have, so it's all clinical, economic, and human outcomes. But it does require policy change and changes in policy, in curriculum. So in conclusion, what did I say? I'm just saying what I said before, because a small percentage, 0.1 of you may have been sleeping, like me, at times. Medications are most widely used intervention in the management of NCDs. Therefore, the pharmacy must be important. It actually, 40 or more % of the health budget is actually spent on drugs. So it's important. Currently, MTM is considered as the best strategy to improve drug therapy outcomes. The services should be reimbursable. There should be legislation, or rather, it should be legislation as essential health benefit. Clinically trained pharmacists should be employed, or pharmacy personnel. There should be a transition from B Pharm to, this was Pharm D, by the way. Pharm D, it's already in the strategic plan, so I don't even have to address it. And also, hopefully, we encourage both certification of pharmacy specialties. And finally, this is a reflection for those who are in the pharmacy profession. I've always believed that we are very good in content delivery. It's like also dressing up somebody to go to a wedding, but there's no wedding to go. It's a high time we match what we teach in our curriculum and expectations on the ground. So finally, back to you, Dr. Niela. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof, for that wonderful presentation. We have noted the points that MTM is an essential service and should be reimbursable. And I think it's good news that the PPB has had a strategic policy change where they are moving to a PharmD that is more clinical oriented. Please look out for questions on the Q&A tab that will definitely follow your presentation so that you can answer them for all of us to see. For now, I will ask Ms. Elizabeth Washira to come on. She's a product manager at Dawa to make a brief product presentation. Over to you, Elizabeth. Prof,
thank you so much.
Sharing your screen.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I was going to ask the same. Okay, thank you very much. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank our presenters for very wonderful presentations. From Dawa Group, we have a large portfolio of products, and as you can see, we are also focused on both essential health for the majority of our patients who need the painkillers, the antibiotics. We are really well represented there, but we also have a strong pipeline focused on hypertension, diabetes, pain, and gastro. And this is because a lot of our patients, especially now with this change in lifestyles, as Professor Ndemo has said, a lot of patients are coming up with these diseases. And so we have also these products to care for these patients. I'll just go straight. Today, I will want to highlight a few of our products that we have chosen. And I must just add that, you know, from Dawa, it is our passion. Patients are our passion, and we really do everything in terms of quality, in terms of our production. When we are sourcing for molecules, we are looking to give our patients proper quality medication and also to ensure that they get the very best from us. And so I will not highlight everything that we have, but just a few of products that we have on board. And one of them is Montalage. We have Montalage 2 SKUs. We have the Montalage with Montelukast 10 milligram and levocetrizine 5 milligram. And also we have the Montalage Montelukast 5 milligram chewable tablets. Montalag has been in the market for quite a while, and I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with it for allergies and also for hives or in urticaria, especially for those kind of patients. But now we have introduced Montalage CT, which is a chewable tablet, 5 milligram sodium, Montelukast sodium, with a unique mango flavor, very palatable, easily chewable for your kids, and it is indicated for kids from 6 years of age up to 14 years of age. It is available. Montalage is available with a lot of your pharmacists, and we are still introducing it. We just introduced it last month, and so we are proud of this product. A lot of our doctors are happy with it and recommending it to your patients. Then we also have Darkoff. Darkoff is a full range of 4 different products, and these are especially for your patients with colds and coughs, and especially now with this season where we are having a lot of fluctuation in terms of the weather. There is hot weather, then it's cold. This triggers a lot of these kind of coughs and allergies with our patients. So we have the Darkoff range, which we have the Darkoff Dry for the dry cough, very effective in terms of relieving the dry cough. We have the Darkoff Pediatric for your children who have productive cough. Then we have Darkoff Mucolytic for those patients who have chesty cough, which is also with irritation, you could say that. And also we have Darkoff Expectorant. which is indicated for relief of productive cough. So for your patients who will come over to you requesting something to soothe their cough in this season, then you can recommend Darkoff, any of the ranges based on the indications that I have highlighted. Then another key product that we wanted to highlight today is Renacet. Renacet is cetirizine 5 milligram in every 5 ml oral solution. We also have the tablet formulation, which is 10 milligram. And this is basically is an antihistamine. Again, because we are still in this season where we are seeing in the cold season, but also there's also some warm weather in between, and a lot of patients are getting their allergies. And so you can recommend Renacet for your patients, especially during this time. We have the syrup for the children, and we have the tablets for the adults. And then again, because we are still working towards giving our patients that overall coverage, especially also in terms of NCDs, and as you've seen now with the COVID and the situation that is affecting the country, a lot of patients have now discovered other ailments, diabetes, hypertension that is coming up. So we are launching very soon, and this is not the first product we have in hypertension. We have a whole portfolio. We have olmesartan, we have losartan, we have telmisartan on board. But now we are launching amlo-ab, which is ibisartan, 300 milligram with amlodipine, 5 milligram tablets for our hypertensive patients. And this is just to add on to the basket that is already present. We also are going to be launching very soon Lacopat, which is lacosamide tablets for our patients who present with symptoms of epilepsy or convulsions. So these are two molecules that are coming to you very, very soon. We are already working on the launch phase, and we are already starting to plan in terms of contacting our doctors, so look out for this. But we also have other products that are on this range. We have Precob, and we also have Olam, which are also for hypertension and also for epilepsy. Okay, so other than that, as I said earlier, we are keen to continue our partnership with Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya and continue partnering with our pharmacists to, share or support this kind of platforms where we are sharing information. Like, it's very impressive what Dr. Antonio has shared with us tonight. So we are passionate about this, and I'm sure we are going to carry out more sessions where we are going to participate even more deeply in terms of engaging in this conversation. So again, also to appreciate you. You are still our frontliners, especially still now as we enter into the larger phase, or is it the bigger phase, or the most important phase of this COVID pandemic. We appreciate your efforts in terms of what you're doing to us as your patients, and also serving the community. So I just want to say thank you very much, and I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for that, and congratulations on launching Montelukast CT. No doubt it will be much appreciated by the prescribers, the pharmacists, and the patients. So this brings us to the end of the presentations from our distinguished speakers. Thank you very much to our speakers for tirelessly answering the questions on the Q&A chat. We do not have time for open Q&A, so I will just go around with the speakers. I would like to ask you to make a 1-minute comment, a 1-minute closing remark on the things we need to focus on in the future in pharmacy practice with regard to, for Dr. Wanyanga, with regard to quality of medicines, for Dr. Antonio, with regard to carrying out pharmacy as a business, and of course, Professor Ndemo, give us your comments about the way forward for pharmacists and managing NCDs. So I'd like to start with you, Dr. Wanyanga.
Thank you. This is quite a question and a half. I'll try to just give an overview. Number one is appreciating that the pharmaceutical sector, manufacturing sector is growing, but its growth is also necessary to be controlled so that we have a timelines for quality improvements. And the customers, especially the customers, the distributors, the doctors, the medical practitioners and pharmacists will have a very difficult time in assessing which company is less risky to deal with. And this underscores the need to start categorizing the industry, working very closely with the Pharmacy and Poisons Board and other technical people to categorize the industries into A, B, and C. And number two, certification on GMP, which companies certify the needs in both regulatory and also independent evaluators, so that we can be able to see that there is some independent way of grading the qualifying, certifying the manufacturers. And thirdly, the growth. And the growth, whether there is expansion in the number of products or whether they're just doing the Me Too products. I think that companies like Dawa, with the products I have seen today, are moving away from Me Too and are going to start into specializing specific molecules so that we can be able to know where to go. And lastly, COVID-19 pandemic has given us very good opportunities. It's devastating to the other areas, but it's making local manufacturing more relevant. So if it becomes relevant, then it means that it's the duty of the local manufacturers to say, here we are giving you all the products you want and they are of quality. And these are the people behind that who can testify that these are quality products. So that's all I can say in my closing remarks, that the local industry is growing and the areas we can be able to look at the footprints of quality. Let me also thank the organizers, and Daniela, you have done a good job, I think, moderating the sessions. Thank you very much on behalf of PSK, and also the other presenters. I think I have learned a lot from all of you. Thank you, especially I didn't know that pharmacists are thirsty of knowledge, and they attended in good number. Anytime I've given my email, we are ready to continue the conversation. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, Dr. Wanyanga. We are so privileged to have you. Dr. Hipolito, please, your final remarks on the future of pharmacy as a business.
Okay. Okay. Hello, Daniela. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for the enthusiastic questions. I tried to answer all of them, but they are a very, very large group of questions. I think I could answer to everyone, but please feel free to mail me or something like that, because of course it's so enthusiastic to see how gorgeous we can deal with so many kilometers in behalf of us. But it's interesting to, of course, to all the time this kind of change of some subjects, and of course I'm always trying to do my best. But you are fantastic with this webinar. So thank you, Daniela, for your moderation. Thank you, Professor Ndemo. Thank you, Dr. Wanyanga. Sorry for your name, it's difficult for me. And of course, the team from DAVA. And now my final remarks are, I think I have 3 remarks to make. First of all, as I tried to say before, pharmacies are a business, but please try to keep them all the time ethic and trustable. This is the way that pharmacies in Portugal have do their way, and we are not so happy, of course, with this COVID time, but we are happy with our performance, because in Portugal, pharmacies are very trustable to persons. And this is my suggestion to you, is that try to maintain all the time the balance between the mission, as I told you, the ethic as a pharmacist, and of course the business that you have to run and we have to provide to our customers and to our people inside the pharmacy. So second remark, pharmacies, and there are lots of questions that I have answered around this topic. Pharmacy in the future, I think, will have lots of space to grow. Why? Because health is the most growing market in the world. So everyone would be interested in having more healthy situations, so being more healthier. And of course, at the same time, they will spend more in optimizing, in the trying to get more healthy for them and for the family, and for, of course, their people who are close to them. So this second remark is because, of course, you have doubts, as I have doubts in this COVID time, but pharmacies will grow up, will grow next times. We are, of course, facing this pandemic situation, which is very difficult to all of us. But I strongly believe that we will increase our business in the future if we do things right. And the third, of course, the future. The future is something by now very uncertain, but I believe the role of the pharmacists and technicians are very important. In Portugal, try to be aware of this. In Portugal, all days, 10% of the population enter a pharmacy. So in 10 days, of course, this is a statistic, it's not the reality, but in 10 days, 15 days, you face all your population in the pharmacies. So it gives you a power that, of course, no other market, no other business have. So pharmacies are very close to persons. For instance, in Portugal, the more trustable business is pharmacies. So I believe, as a pharmacist I am, and of course, talking with pharmacists and with technicians that are you, I strongly believe that we have a role, an important role in the future. So I think these were my 3 remarks. Thank you very much for your enthusiasm, for your considerable interest in this webinar, and I hope I'll be with you next time. And more or less in a month, I think we'll have another time to face our difficulties and, of course, to speak about it. Thank you, Daniela. Thank you, all the persons in the panel. Thank you very much for you that have been in this webinar.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hipolito. I should have asked you to add whether your books, any of your books, are in English and where we can get them. But thank you for those closing remarks. We have noted that pharmacy is an ethical business, and we need to focus on building trust with our clients. Do you want to comment about where we can get your books?
Daniela, listen, of course, my books are in Portuguese. I believe, but I'm not by now sure, that in the 2 or 3 months we'll have some news to you, but I cannot say more by this time because I'm not authorized to do that. Okay, but okay. I believe we will have some news in the future, and thank you very much for your interest and for your support.
Thank you very much. We look forward to that. Now, Professor Ndemo, please give us your closing remarks about the future of pharmacy practice, particularly with regard to MTM and NCDs?
No, actually, thank you, Daniela. But first and foremost, let me thank the DAWA group and the fact that I come to know Dr. Antonio, and also how to spell George in Portuguese. I thought I saw a J, not a G. So again, let me say I was very impressed by Dr. Wilberforce Wanyanga's presentation and good Dr. Antonio's. But on from my presentation, truly the take-home messages is on the clinical end, pharmacies are not doing very well. All we need to do, the efforts I'm trying to make, even as a dean, a school of pharmacy, is for all of us actually as a profession to be reflective of our social responsibilities to society. As I said, the drug-related morbidity and mortality should be a public health concern. It should not be treated like a side issue. And in other words, as you realize in all the things I was talking about, drug-related needs, whether the drug is appropriate, whether it's effective, whether it's safe, that is a responsibility of the clinician. In other words, that's a responsibility of the clinician, including physician and pharmacist. The patients aren't responsible for compliance. So in other words, we have really been failing. When there's drug therapy failure, for sure it's because we have failed. So the way forward, it should be also at the policy level. MTM, we should push it to be an essential health benefit. And number two, the curriculum really needs to change. The idea of chickening out on the movement towards a PharmD, just go to Wikipedia and see how many, it's like wildfire. West Africa, and the whole essence of PharmD, for those who do not know, it's not an added degree beyond your B Pharm. That's not the concept. The whole PharmD conceptually is different. They try to produce a clinical pharmacist. I mean, a pharmacist with the clinical skills. The pharmacist in future is simply a clinician. So my take from this conversation is to support the Pharmacy and Process Board to actually deliver. I know there has been some resistance, and also put the role of the farm techs in, looked properly, actually it's an opportunity. Not many, almost there's no anywhere in the world where we have a middle cadre that is neither a farm technician nor a pharmacist. It's a very unique, that could help us propel and actually achieve what we want. But at the moment, we're kind of confused, but there's a way out. Also transitioning from being a farm tech to a pharmacist, and the pharmacist into becoming a specialist. So with that, thank you very much. It's almost past my bedtime. Thank you, Daniela. Thank everybody. Thank you all the participants. And Wanyanga can still see you. Your hair is still gray. Thank you, sir.
It's getting better.
Dr. Hipolito has written a book on anti-aging, so you better get your hands on that.
I've seen some medicines also for the same. I think
no. But this is pretty good. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to bring this to a close. I cannot thank our speakers enough. I cannot thank our sponsors, DAWA, enough, and our participants for holding on till the end. We still have more than 300 people in the house. Please look out for this webinar on PSK's YouTube page. For now, from me, it's good night. Let's catch up at the next webinar. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Daniela.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you.